Welcome to Darts Gear. The Shot Bandit Gen.4 no longer has a white spider, and the bullseye wire has become thicker. Additionally, the package no longer includes damping paper or dartboard wedges. The puck holder is included, but it is also no longer pre-installed. This is a step back for the same price. So what is different, and is there anything that is really better in the Shot Bandit Gen.4? From my perspective, there was one significant weakness in the predecessor. I will, of course, focus on that in this video. Shot, formerly Puma, is the inventor of the bladed dartboards. From my perspective, the unique and special feature of the Shot Bandits has been the thinnest and deepest recessed spider made of sisal among all dartboards on the market. Powder-coated in white and without protruding legs into the edge area for an absolutely clean look. The outer ring is framed with an inner clamped number ring, extra black coated wire, and beautiful white high-contrast numbers. Awesome. It looks great. Sisal top. Without visible irregularities, and even the numbers, although it features an analog, thus more classic number ring, are still very easy to read due to the contrasts. In addition, there was still a rear-mounted puck holder, which is already a bit different from the standard 2-hole metal holder. For the backboard, a suitable box or similar. Such a damping pad, which also provided a really nice deep sound. It also had the appropriate cutouts for the included dartboard wedges for securing. And it could have all remained the same for me, except for two changes in my opinion that would have made it the perfect dartboard. The logos, for example, are somewhat narrower and preferably evenly distributed, so that the dartboard always looks the same when rotated. And of course, eliminate the susceptibility of the single wire to warping. This is simply the Achilles heel and was also the main point of criticism in my detailed review of the Shot Bandit Gen.3. And even if it rarely shows extreme warping, meaning that from a distance you don't perceive it as such, a warp is a warp, and it simply doesn't exist in the Winmar Blade 6 boards. So what has Shot changed now? At first glance, there are a few things that stand out. The logos are now bright white, yes, a little bit more modern, but the 20 is not as easily readable because of that. White on white just doesn't work very well. The number ring is now clamped on the outside in a classic style instead of being on the inside, and instead of the white spider, there is now bare stainless steel. The bullseye wire for singles, as well as for doubles, has even become a bit thicker, and the colors are somewhat improved. Some will like it, as red and green are now noticeably darker and therefore more contrasting. And the frame of the dartboard itself is now made of metal instead of plastic. As mentioned, the package no longer includes any damping paper or dartboard wedges for fixation. So overall, there are quite a few differences, and I personally wish that the already published reviews had gone into a bit more detail about this. But if you don't have a comparison or are a dealer, then I can understand that you would prefer to leave out what Shot apparently also leaves out. After all, you want to sell it. But for the customer, there is actually less equipment in Shot Gen.4 for the same money. That's how it has to be said. But two things I see positively are, on one hand, the encased metal ring and the outer clamp. I think that's good. This should now eliminate those unsightly plastic chips. And I would say that magnetic stuff, like the Corona ring light and so on, can now simply be fixed in place. Second point, the colors have changed a bit. Many found that the red on the Shot Bandit was a bit too orange and the green was a bit too frog green. It will now be a dark grass green with a decent dark red. But what about the only truly important reason for the Achilles heel, which all dartboards with a non-retractable spider have in the outer area? For example, that I can straighten the double fields over time. However, with the Shot Bandit, the very thin single wire of only 0.8 meters made it susceptible to getting waves, so it had to be rotated more frequently. And if you haven't done that and have played really intensively, then you have experienced slight curves in those typical fields like the 19 or 18. Has that finally been fixed now?
Also the brand new board, 20 legs, that's really not much. I can already see them getting worn out. I didn't expect them to arrive so quickly.
140.
So just 30 legs later, and you can already see a few more sisal fibers. Up here in the 5, I can directly pull out fibers. In the 1, you can also see how easily whole sisal fibers come out. No guys, this is definitely a setback. This is not better. Look down here at what is accumulating. All sisal fibers from just 30 played legs and with which darts. They are not ultra intense now. Here, these are the pole limb with the nano tips, which are still considered quite gentle on the board. Well then I'll just play another little round with the really nasty 180 tips and a few more legs. Because the main thing is, does the single wire get a wave, or is it the only thing that really seems to be better here? So guys, I was just patient this time and gave the board a bit of rest overnight. This is now the next day after the intensive test runs, and you can see the sisal fibers. You can see the slight discolorations, especially in these light segments. This was not present before. And once again, specifically regarding the wave in the wire. I think you can already see it here. Up here. The wire also has a slight wave. It's really wow, man. When I drive for so long, I think you can see it. And in direct comparison to my Shot Bandit here, which is now 6 months old and has been really intensively used, it has been tested in the same way. So, first of all, let's stay with the original. That's something you just hang up and play directly. That's fine. Is the wire pulling or something here? No. Does it have slight waves? The current ER field has a small dent in the single wire at the bottom. From the top view, it doesn't look that dramatic. But I say, that was the main point of criticism for me regarding the Shot Bandit. I would have wished for them to fix that. And what do I get here? I do have the feeling that the stainless steel Spider has become a little more durable, but I have measured, played, examined, and evaluated the board according to the same criteria that I have used for all full reviews at dartboard so far. A total of 4,000 darts on the board. That can take a whole day. Then I look at the Spider, the sisal, the colors, basically the changes, also how deep different darts and tips are embedded, and I evaluate that according to 5 criteria in my test catalog. And in the end, there is an overall rating that can also be related to or compared with the other tested dartboards. If you are interested in these specific measurements and criteria for the other dartboards as well, you will find everything below in the description. So the link is in the video description with test tables, with the dartboards, with the weighting, and so on. This way I don't have to explain this in the video every time. But I will be completely honest with you. As a longtime Shot Bandit fan, I am deeply disappointed with Generation 4, and I am really quite upset. It's good that I still have objective criteria because you do feel a bit cheated when you think, okay, the Generation 4 must be better in principle, as it is also advertised. However, it is only a cosmetic enhancement, done a bit on the surface, but the dartboard is already softer in terms of the sisal. Softer means more susceptible to tips with board grip. Even with tips that have nano grip, which usually aren't that damaging to the board, you regularly pull out small sisal fibers. If you use something a bit more aggressive, I could already pull out whole tufts and complete sisal fibers from the thing. The light areas are already showing dark shading after just 1 day. The color from the black area is bleeding into the light area. And you can clearly see after just 1 day of more intensive play which areas I have checked out. And honestly, I feel cheated. Here, yes, on the package of premium self-healing sisal. Maybe with reflex points, expensive board, yes, visually nice after unpacking. In terms of quality at first glance, you get a really clean, neat, well-made dartboard. But just don't play with it. It should be a worse Spider with the same susceptibility to a wave. Additionally, it is no longer coated with white powder, but only with stainless steel, white logos. Yes, great, I now have less contrast. The 20 and the Shot logo up there are hardly distinguishable. And also here, take a quick look at how nicely this is photoshopped on the packaging. Look at how the 20 and the logo look. Yes, but that's just not the reality. And this whole Photoshop nonsense is really getting on my nerves, to be honest. And I don't really understand it either. I mean, you want to gain market share and not always give preference to Winmo, but you are practically pushing people towards it. Just make better boards and basically listen to the feedback or the obvious from the players. And I am a fan of the Shot Bandit Generation 3, well aware that the single wire Spider has a small Achilles heel. So everything that would have been needed for me to have the perfect dartboard would be to keep it as it is and make the single wire 0.2 mm thicker again. Then you would be right at the standard that Winmoblade 6 still sets. Logos should be really small, but beautifully synchronized and symmetrical so that when you rotate it, it always looks the same. That would be point 1. And, as I said, a more stable spider. And if they could also change the colors from orange-red to a true red, that would be so awesome. But no, instead of that, they prefer to change the logos, they change the clamping, they make it softer and in that sense worse and more prone to issues. You save something with the spider. Still, it's not better. And this rotating bracket, I also really like using the puck holder, but really, how is that supposed to hold on its own? This one is designed to rotate and it has no fixation or clamping mechanism. So let me show you a comparison with this other dartboard holder. The dartboard cannot rotate because the thing is simply just pushed straight onto it. It always has to be pulled out, turned, and put back on. The puck holder can rotate nicely, which means that if you mount it on the wall without wedges, the darts will go in really deep into the soft dartboard. You will always be able to move and rotate the dartboard just a little bit. But yes, of course, you can also sell additional dartboard wedges. Annoying. For me, this actually takes away everything that characterized the passion for the product and, ultimately, the character of the Shot Bandit. Because you can now take the Bull's Advantage 701 1-to-1, same dimensions, same spider, same colors, yes, the same sisal, even the same framing. The only thing that is different is that there are different logos and a different number ring, and you don't need all that advertising nonsense and any kind of fuss because nothing is better. So you can tell, I'm getting a bit emotional about this. That's how it is when you're a fan of a brand and you have certain expectations that are not just there, but are actually stirred up. But at the moment, you really approach and test the thing realistically and objectively. I have to say, it is worse. So it's a step back compared to the Shot Bandit Gen.4, and this is also reflected in the overall rating. While the previously tested Shot Bandit received a total score of 91%, which is very close to an excellent rating, it is understandable that the Shot Bandit Gen.4 loses some points now, and has now just barely reached the good mark with 80.4 percentage points. You are essentially paying €1 per performance point that you get with the Shot Bandit Gen.4. With the Bull's Advantage 701, you essentially get the same performance at a slightly lower price. There will still be an individual review for that. There are minor differences, especially in the number ring. There is one thing I particularly want to address, but to be completely honest, from a price-performance perspective, I would stick with a Winmoblade 6, for example. So to summarize for the conclusion, Generation 4 of the Shot Bandit is not better than Generation 3. For me, it is a step back in several areas. The one or two small improvements, they are nice, but for me, they are in the wrong place. A different color and a different clamp don't make it better. With the color, you can now see discoloration in the light areas that weren't there before. It's a case of making things worse while trying to improve them. A softer board is clearly more sensitive to the possibility of sisal coming out. The spider is also not better. It is just as prone to warping, maybe a little bit more durable, but still susceptible, and with even less included in the package, it cannot be properly secured. You can't sell that to me as a better dartboard. For me, it's really a thing now that I say I don't need to put up with the Shot Bandit anymore. So I'm out now because there are already alternatives available and more are coming. In this sense, I'm curious about your opinions. Feel free to write them in the comments, and then I want to say a big thank you for watching. Until the next video. Bye, ciao, good dart.